Good day, Britain. You know your Prime Minister is in serious trouble when even sympathetic observers are openly predicting he'll be gone within months, admitting they've literally bet money on his political demise, and comparing his situation to a doomed football manager whose team is bottom of the league with no hope of recovery. Former Middlesbrough Mayor Andy Preston has delivered an absolutely brutal assessment of Sir Keir Starmer's prospects for 2026, declaring the PM is doomed and will be gone by year's end because he fundamentally cannot inject optimism, despite delivering New Year's messages promising hope and renewal. Preston doesn't think it matters what Starmer says anymore because the man himself doesn't project the charisma, leadership, or belief needed to convince anyone that better times are coming, and with local elections looming that are predicted to be disastrous, Labour will have no choice but to change leaders just like a desperate football club sacks its manager when relegation beckons. This is the story of how Starmer's political obituary is being written barely 18 months into his premiership, why even people who feel sorry for him think he's finished, and whether Andy Burnham is preparing to step into number 10 through a convenient by-election arrangement that would complete one of the most remarkable political collapses in modern British history. Quick favour before we explore Starmer's predicted political death. If you love watching bold predictions about which politicians are finished, hit that subscribe button right now. Over 94% of you watching haven't subscribed yet. It's completely free, takes a second, and helps us keep bringing you the unvarnished assessments that mainstream media won't dare make. Smash that notification bell so you never miss when we document the next leadership crisis or political collapse. If you've just subscribed, you're brilliant. Cheers. Now, let's dissect why Preston thinks Starmer is doomed. Let's start with Starmer's New Year's message because Preston's critique begins there. The Prime Minister told Britons, in 2026, the choices we've made will mean more people will begin to feel positive change in your bills, your communities, and your health service. But even more people will feel once again a sense of hope, a belief that things can and will get better, feel that the promise of renewal can become a reality, and my government will make it that reality. That standard political optimism, promising better times ahead based on tough choices already made. The problem, as Preston immediately identifies, is that the messenger completely undermines the message. Preston's assessment is devastating. It's a tough year. New Year is a great chance at a personal, a professional, at a political level. It's a fresh start. So for leaders, it's a golden opportunity to look forward and inject that optimism that we all crave. I don't think Keir Starmer can do it. It almost doesn't matter what he says. I can barely remember what he said, but he didn't have that energy about him. He didn't instill optimism, and that's a personal problem. I think for him, it doesn't look like he believes it. That phrase, it almost doesn't matter what he says, is crucial. Preston is arguing that Starmer's problem isn't primarily about policy or even messaging content. It's about the man himself, his inability to project optimism, energy, or belief in what he's saying. This connects to something fundamental about political leadership. People need to believe their leaders believe. You can have the best policies, the best messaging, the best strategies, but if you don't personally embody belief and optimism, if you don't project energy and confidence, nobody's going to follow you. Starmer's problem is that he looks and sounds like someone going through the motions, reading carefully crafted statements without conviction. That political death because people respond to authenticity and energy, not to robotic recitation of focus group talking points. Preston admits he feels sorry for Starmer, which is almost more damning than straightforward criticism. He's in a very tough spot, and I do feel sorry for him, because he almost cannot win whatever he does. Even if the economy does start to improve, I think it's a long time before we all start to feel a bit better in our pockets. This captures Starmer's impossible situation. Even if his policies eventually work, even if the economy improves, it'll take so long for people to feel benefits in their daily lives that he'll have lost political viability before any credit can accrue. He's trapped in a vice where short-term pain is immediate and obvious whilst long-term gain is distant and uncertain. But Preston doesn't let sympathy soften his verdict. So Keir Starmer's got a monstrous challenge. You need charisma. You need leadership. You need to be that figurehead. He doesn't have that. So he's doomed. He will be gone. That's the core judgment. Starmer lacks the personal qualities needed to overcome the challenges he faces. He needs charisma to inspire. He needs leadership to guide through difficult times. He needs to be a figurehead people rally around, and is none of those things. Therefore, He's doomed. Preston's prediction gets more specific and dramatic. I thought he'd be gone by now. I was wrong. But I do think he's got just a few months in him. I think they will wait till the local elections because they will be disastrous. It's a question of how much, but they will be. This isn't vague speculation. Preston is saying Starmer will last until the local elections, which will be so catastrophic that they'll trigger his removal. He is setting a timeline, just a few months, and identifying the catalyst, electoral disaster. The local elections prediction is particularly interesting because it provides a concrete mechanism for Starmer's departure. If Labour gets hammered in May's local elections, if they lose councils across the country, if the results confirm polling that shows them cratering, panicked MPs will demand change. They'll see their own seats threatened. They'll decide that loyalty to a failing leader is suicide. And they'll move to replace him before the next general election. That's a scenario Preston is predicting, and it's entirely plausible given current polling and public mood. Asked if things had turned a corner in 2026, Preston is unequivocal. Not at all. I think optimism is an astonishingly low level. People feel very negative, very pessimistic. They feel hostile, frustrated, and angry everywhere, and it's going to take a long time to fix that. This is about public psychology, not just economics. Even if objective conditions improve, people's subjective feelings of pessimism, frustration, and anger are deeply entrenched and won't shift quickly. And those feelings are what drive voting behavior and political outcomes. Preston continues, and when things do get better economically, it takes time for people to feel that in their pockets and feel that psychologically optimism is hard to instill. So whoever's in power, whoever's in has got a very tough job on their hands, and Keir Starmer is not the right man. That last sentence is a killer. Even if the job is incredibly difficult, even if anyone would struggle, Starmer specifically is not the right man for it. Someone else might succeed or at least have a chance. Starmer doesn't. Preston's formal prediction is emphatic. My prediction is Keir Starmer goes, absolutely. I thought he would be gone by the end of 2025. And I have to confess, I did put a small £10 bet on that, which hasn't worked. I've now officially lost 10 quid. The fact that he actually bet money on Starmer being gone by end of 2025 shows this isn't just punditry. Preston was confident enough to wager on it. He was wrong on timing, but maintains his right on the ultimate outcome. I think most people feel that he will be gone. Most people don't think it's certain. I think it's almost certain he has to go. The football manager analogy Preston uses is perfect and devastating. Labour cannot improve. It's like a football manager when the club is at the bottom of the league. 3/4 of the season have gone, and your only chance now is to change leadership. You swap managers. This captures the logic of leadership change when recovery under current management seems impossible. You're not necessarily sacking the manager because they are bad. You're sacking them because the situation is beyond salvaging under their leadership, and only change offers hope. When Dawn Neeson asks who would replace Starmer, Preston immediately names Andy Burnham as the popular choice at the moment. Burnham is currently mayor of Greater Manchester and doesn't have a parliamentary seat, but Preston dismisses that as a minor obstacle. He doesn't have a seat, but that's easily doable. I think Clive Lewis came forward and offered his seat, which he really shouldn't have done, that undermined Keir Starmer in early December. I think there would be plenty of people that would step forward and do that knowing they'd be compensated down the line by the Labour leader. This is where the prediction gets really interesting because it outlines a specific mechanism. Burnham becomes Labour leader. Some Labour MP, probably in a safe seat, agrees to stand down and trigger by-election. Burnham stands in that by-election, wins easily because of the safe Labour seat, enters Parliament, and becomes Prime Minister. The MP who stood aside gets compensated with a peerage or some other position. It's been done before in British politics and could easily be done again if Labour decides Burnham is their salvation. Preston's analysis of Reform UK and Nigel Farage is also insightful. He notes Reform is polling around 28% on average, and even if they drop to 25%, they should be very comfortable because that's still historically high for a party of their type. But he identifies the psychological danger. The problem is, it's at momentum, isn't it? If it were to carry on, and when you fall, like with football, when you have a bad run, people start fighting, infighting, causing trouble behind the scenes, and that's a very difficult job for a manager to handle. Preston raises a question about Fair Eye's leadership. And the question is, if they dip down to 22% and there's infighting, is Nigel Farage the right man to manage that? This parallels his Starmer critique. It's not enough to be good when things are going well. Leadership is about handling adversity, managing declining momentum, preventing infighting. Can Farage do that? Preston seems uncertain. The broader context for all of this is Labour's catastrophic polling. They are being hammered across almost every metric. Approval ratings are terrible. Economic confidence is low. Trust in government is cratering. The contrast between pre-election promises and post-election reality is stark. Voters feel deceived, disappointed, and angry. That's the environment in which Starmer is trying to project optimism and hope, and it's simply not working because he doesn't have the personal charisma or political capital to overcome it. Preston's sympathy for Starmer actually makes a critique more powerful. He is not gleefully predicting the PM's demise out of partisan hatred. He genuinely feels sorry for Starmer's impossible situation, while still concluding that he's doomed. That's more devastating than pure partisan attack because it suggests even sympathetic observers see no path forward for Starmer.